Hello, my name is Ashley Johnson, and this is my final paper presentation. This semester, we were assigned to observe children in their surroundings while at school. I chose to observe children in the preschool stage of development. I wanted to learn more about how children interacted with each other and their teachers. I also wanted to learn more on how they self regulate themselves when they become upset in situations. So I asked myself, what goes through a child's mind when certain situations happen, and how do they handle certain situations? I also wanted to observe the teachers to see how they interacted with the students and how they handled certain situations. I work at a Head Start, and I thought it would be the perfect place to observe all the children in the building at different ages to see how they did in their classrooms. All these children are aged between 18 months, which is about a year and a half, to 5 years old. There are some students that are autistic that I observed, and I focused on them most because I wanted to see how an autistic child handled their emotions when they were under stress. When I observed the children, I chose the times that I knew they would either be learning or playing in centers. This gave me the chance to see how they interacted with their teachers and their fellow classmates. I would sit at a table far away from them and watch them. I did not want to communicate with them because I knew that it would distract them from what they were doing. The children were not the only ones that I observed. I watched the teachers and the teachers' assistants to see how they attended to the children when they needed help or there was a problem. I observed how teachers treated their students because how a teacher treats their student is how the student will react or act. In the older classrooms, I noticed that there was a problem that some of the children would go to the teacher and get help. The teachers would get down on their level and try to solve the problem, and they would give them choices to see if it can make the situation better. In the smaller classrooms, both teachers were constantly observing the children because they did have a few children that like to bite or hit. Each classroom has their own set of rules for their students based on their age level or appropriate age level. And it actually amazed me that most of them knew how to follow some of the simple directions at their age. Overall, I believe the teachers did a wonderful job with their students. When I first started this project, I had trouble deciding what I wanted to learn more from observing these children because I work with some of these children all the time, and I thought that I knew a lot about them. But after being in other classrooms and observing other children, it made me think more about how these children act together and what makes them get the impulses to do things. To produce some questions to help me do my observation, I went online and searched the preschool stage development. I realized that I wanted to learn more about their social development, their physical development, language development, and their cognitive development. I wanted to know how they developed socially with other friends and teachers, and I wanted to see how well they played with others. And I even wanted to know how well they communicated with each other as well as their teachers. On the cognitive level, I wanted to see if they could follow multiple step directions. In the preschool stage of development, this is a huge step for kids because they have so much going on, and I know it can be overwhelming sometimes. They start to go to school at an early age, and it's the first time they're away from their parents. So that must be overwhelming. They spend 8 hours with a total stranger they don't know, and they have all these other children around them. And it can be overstimulating for them. So the first class that I observed was the other Head Start class that we have. They had 20 kids ranging from 3 to 5 years of age. They're like the class that I work in now, but this teacher has a bachelor's degree, and she knows how to run the classroom the right way. She was very attentive to her students, and her students could communicate their needs and they can help themselves. She also had some students that could help other students that needed help. I observed them during their morning circle, their breakfast, their regular circle time, and their center time. I was able to see how well they did on the carpet while learning and how well they played with each other. This class was very well organized and knew their routine. The next class that I observed was a preschool classroom. These children were between the ages of 2 and 3 years old. This is the age where they are getting ready to transition to Head Start. Now, with this classroom, they've had multiple teachers, and I was able to observe them right after the teacher that they started out with had quit to go to a different job. And these children get used to one teacher, and then something happens and they leave. And that's when they start acting up or getting confused with what's going on. Like, why does my teacher keep leaving? And I also observed these children after their current teacher left because they also acted the same as before because the teacher's assistant that was in that classroom was still there, so they knew her. So they had some sense of normalcy. There is a nonverbal autistic child in there. He was used to that teacher that was in there, and when she left, he started acting out, having tantrums. I observed him during their routine, and he had trouble sitting down for a long time, and he wanted to run around the classroom. I knew that since that teacher had left, he was going to have a tough time. I watched him as he interacted with the other children, in which he prefers to play alone. When it came to lunch or breakfast, he liked to steal food from them, and the children knew that he would try to steal their food, so they would move their plate away from him, so he couldn't steal their food. But they knew how to interact with him and to play with him. The next class that I had observed was our toddler room, and these children were between the ages of 18 months and 3 years of age. In this classroom, there was 12 children with 2 teachers, and I observed them during their breakfast time, their circle time, and their outside time. I wanted to see how the children at this age interacted with each other and their teachers. Most of them are still in the process of potty training and needed help cleaning themselves. As I observed them, I noticed that most of them acted on impulse and had to be redirected by their teacher. They had trouble sitting on the carpet while it was time to learn, and they could only sit maybe 5-10 minutes before they were ready to do something else. They have a very short attention span compared to the other classes that I have observed. The last class I observed was our own classroom. We have 2 autistic children in there, a little boy and a little girl. Both are very smart. The little girl, she is a returning child. Last year, she could not speak. She was nonverbal. And when she came back, I observed that she is able to communicate with a few word sentences. She's very smart. She knows all of her letters, colors, shapes, everything. The little boy, he's 3, and when we got him, he was still working on potty training. He was still in a pull-up. He is out of a pull-up now and able to communicate by saying 1 or 2 word sentences of what he needs, or he points. The little girl loves to do crafts by herself. She has some trouble sharing. I noticed that she throws a tantrum when one of the kids takes something away from her, or they take something that she wants. She barely eats food, and if any at all during the day, if she doesn't like it, she will not touch it. The other child, he loves fruit and he loves other types of foods, but he does not really like meat. I noticed that, unless it's like chicken nuggets. When it came to learning, the little girl goes to our quiet place and she listens, but she's also playing with little fidget toys. The little boy has to go sit in a chair because They both feel overstimulated when they sit on the carpet when it comes to learning. They don't really pay attention, but they listen. The little boy I notice, loves to play with our little farmhouse that we have and the little farm animals, but he does not like to share when it comes to playtime. He wants all the toys to himself. And when somebody tries to come play with him, he will run to one of me or the other teacher and like points and says, "Teacher." But I have learned a lot about each age group after observing all the different classes. I had a wonderful time being able to go into the other classes and observe all the children and see how they interacted in centers and on the carpet, to see how well they learn and pay attention to rules. I love working with children at these ages to be a part of their learning experiences and to help mold them into bright young children. After doing some research again, I looked up Piaget's stages of development. In the pre-operational stage, he believed that children began to think about objects that are not right in front of them. Along with this advance in thinking, a limitation that is characteristic of this stage is intuitive thinking, in which children focus on just one dimension at a time. With this, Piaget devised several conservation tasks. So after observing these children, it makes my decision to be a child care provider or teacher a lot easier. I want to work with children because I want to be a part of their learning experience. There is a lot of speculation from other teachers about how there's not enough money in this job or it's too much of a headache. But I see it as an opportunity to be able to make a difference in a child's life somehow, whether it be a teacher or a child advocate for that child or their family. This is the right calling for me, and I look forward to seeing what this career has in store for me down the road. Thank you.